Raccontare sempre più storie di gente che vive. Tracce, la rivista internazionale di comunione e liberazione.
Consorzio La Cascina. Ristorazione, global service, costruzioni, servizi alla persona. Promuoviamo l'impresa mutualistica e il benessere della comunità. I numeri di una grande realtà. Oltre 650 milioni di fatturato, più di 16.000 lavoratori. Vivenda. Ristorazione per mense scolastiche, ospedali, aziende e comunità. Global service. La Cascina Costruzioni. Realizziamo come impresa o general contractor infrastrutture e grandi opere edilizie. Medi Hospes. Assistenza, accoglienza, cura. Da sempre al fianco dei più fragili. Consorzio La Cascina. Cuore da cooperativa, testa da impresa.
In mezzo al rumore serve qualcosa che duri.
È il Papa Leon XIV.
Storie vere. Incontri che cambiano la vita. Persone che costruiscono. Uno sguardo originale su ciò che accade. Tutto questo è Tracce. Ora anche in una nuova versione digitale. Per raccontare sempre più storie di gente che vive. Tracce, la rivista internazionale di comunione e liberazione.
Consorzio La Cascina. Ristorazione, global service, costruzioni, servizi alla persona. Promuoviamo l'impresa mutualistica e il benessere della comunità. I numeri di una grande realtà. Oltre 650 milioni di fatturato, più di 16.000 lavoratori. Vivenda. Ristorazione per mense scolastiche, ospedali, aziende e comunità. Global service. La Cascina Costruzioni. Realizziamo come impresa o general contractor infrastrutture e grandi opere edilizie. Medi Hospes. Assistenza, accoglienza, cura. Da sempre al fianco dei più fragili. Consorzio La Cascina. Cuore da cooperativa, testa da impresa.
Questo è un luogo che genera dialogo,
Qualcuno che si impegna, che si batte.
che approfondisce la conoscenza e sostiene la fiducia. È un crocevia dove si incontra chi desidera il vero, il bello, il giusto e il bene. È una testimonianza di speranza nel cuore ferito del presente. E tutto questo
Proporre con la propria vita.
esiste anche grazie a te.
Buongiorno a tutti.
Welcome everybody to this encounter with the title, as you can see from the title, we're dealing with significant things. What does it mean to love the Holy Land, to remain in the Holy Land, which we know has been lacerated by a really violent conflict, which we still can't see any hint of a solution yet, for more than, it's been going on for 3 years. So to bring us inside the Holy Land, inside the experience of what it means to remain there as points of reconciliation, as possibility of remaining human even in front of this violence that's truly devastating, not only from a material point of view, but above all from the point of view of the devastation within each of the peoples involved in this long conflict. So we'll do it with two witnesses, exceptional ones who we thank very much for being with us, who are Father Francesco Ielpo I present him, even if we all know who he is. 56-year-old Italian, Franciscan friar minor, and since June last year he's been the custodian of the Holy Land, which means that he's the guide of a fraternity of over 300 friars of different nationalities who are present not only in Israel and Palestine, but also in Lebanon, Syria, Egypt, Jordan, and also Cyprus. So we know that the custodian of the Holy Land has had more than 800 years of presence in the Holy Land, and so really they are witnesses of what does it mean to remain and to passing through all the long history that's been very wounding and difficult of the Holy Land. And then we can see, linked to us from Gaza City, Father Gabriel Romanelli, whom we thank so much. He's an Argentinian by birth, 57 years old. He's a missionary of the Congregation of the Word Incarnate. For more than 20 years, he's been living in the Holy Land. And since 2019, he is the Latin parish priest of Gaza City. And where he, with the other priests and nuns who are in a mission into the Gaza Strip, they decided to remain next to their people, not only the Christians, but also many other Palestinians who they help, and they continue to help during this war. And he decided to remain there. And as he said more than once, not for reasons of heroism, but or political resistance, but really because what they have to do is with the nature of their vocation as priests and missionaries in the Holy Land. We know that he will speak to us as the community of Catholics in the Gaza City, where the Christians have their little community, the Christian community, which involves also the Greek Orthodox Christians, also the Latin Catholics. There were more than 1,100 of them before the war, and now there's only about 500 of them, because many of them have been killed in the bombardments. Others have died through lack of medical treatment. Others have fled the place, have managed to leave the Gaza Strip. And he finds himself a few hundred meters from the so-called yellow line, which is the new border which cuts off the Gaza Strip. And many, many Palestinians live there in the conditions that he will tell us about, and grouped, all squished together in the part that's still controlled by Hamas, while beyond the yellow line there's the Israeli army which occupies that part. And so, Father Gabriel, I'll start with you. Can you tell us about your connection? Given the connection is good with you, I'll ask you, how is the situation today at Gaza? Gaza seems a bit like it's disappeared from the news media, but I think have been some little steps forward of the Trump peace plan, but which also seems to be rather stalled now because the requirements for disarming Hamas, and so and then there's the occupation of the Israelis, which from the part which has been reduced to ruins. So what is the situation of your daily life inside the Gaza Strip and Gaza City, where you find yourself?
Thank you once again to all of you, and thank you to Father Francesco. So the reality in all of the Gaza Strip, this small piece of land of the Holy Land, because Jesus passed from here, that's why it's our mission of the Latin priest of Jerusalem, of our diocese, because historically the Franciscan priests founded it, and before in the Byzantine era. So the reality of this piece of land of the Gaza Strip is terrible. It's like you can't even say that it's a catastrophe, because catastrophe has disappeared from the titles of the newspapers, from the headlines, but it hasn't disappeared at all. And even though the situation has kind of gotten better, really better, from the ceasefire, from the so-called ceasefire in October 2025, it's still a situation that continues to be dramatic. Bombings aren't here right now, but there are bombings in the center of the city center, and the large part of the citizens, everyone, 2,300 people, need everything, and everything is they need everything. They have nothing. Gaza has been completely crushed. I'm using images, but it's like, if you remember the tsunami of 2004, which kind of moved us, we saw the destruction of whole peoples, but it's as if after that tsunami, that nobody had gone to take care of the population, and thanking God, many associations at the time had gone to help of the people, but in Gaza, the help didn't come, and the emergency continues to be every day worse. Because if you find yourself in an emergency, you need some help. You need an immediate response every day. Every day this response becomes later and later, and it becomes worse. And this is what we experience every day. All the citizens of this small community, this small Christian community, that our neighbors are all of Muslim religion. So the daily life, it's very, very strange, because we've become like a big field, not a school group, even though the war teaches us a lot. We've become like a school camp. Many people live in tents. The word tent is kind of too romantic almost, because it's a piece of fabric, and the people live there on the streets for the most of all, or what's left of the houses. So it's insufficient, really, and full of sand. The earth is next to the Mediterranean, the other part of where you are currently, so sandy, but also all mixed with the water from the sewers. And so I start the morning thanking the Lord and asking him that everything is sufficient to pass the night, because many people don't even have energy to go through the night and asking for water to clean, because we don't have undrinkable water. And so this is a daily fight. It's a difficulty, our difficulty, but also of the whole community, of neighbours. And so this makes it very difficult day to day, because other than the kind of unpredictable factors that we've always had here in Gaza, now we have not only unpredictables, but also things you can't even find, resources that you can't have. And here, like you mentioned, we're very low, we've reduced in numbers. And so this moment we're all Christians, Catholics, Orthodoxes, 541 people currently. 60 died during the war, 23 were killed straight away in the military operations in the inside of our Catholic parish, or in the parish, Orthodox parish. And 23 of these died for lack of therapy, and 14 were very old, but the doctors said they could have lived more, but we lacked resources. And so we keep trying to do our best, even helping with water, as much as we can get, produce some energy, distributing water at this moment to more than 400 families of our neighbours. And so, moreover, more than every family that comes here, we give them, from our neighbourhood, we give them water, drinkable water. The parish priest who built the Latin church, he built the church on top of we don't know so far if it's a water a cistern or like a source of water, but the truth is that during the water, this cistern was miraculous, and it gave water to millions and millions of family in this zone, and it continues to. So we pump the water at a golden price, because at this moment we have one generator. We had 3. One was bombed. The one of the Sisters of Mother Teresa, which are inside the compound now. The other generator died, and the third one, we asked the Lord that it keeps giving it a long life, because this generator, thanks to this one, we can pump water and purify it too. We have an electrical purifier, but every litre of diesel is 10 euros, which is... It's not the problem of Hormuz or Iran or Israel or the United States, it's a problem of war. And so every hour of the motor that keeps the motor going, we try and use it for every people, for the refugees that are still here, for the schools, for the 2 houses of Mother Teresa, to pump water for these 400 families, and even for the clinic that from 1 month ago, they opened with the Order of Malta near us, the clinic of St. Joseph, giving energy so that they can receive patients, poorer patients from the area. And sorry, I've talked too much.
No, absolutely not. Thank you. Even because Father Gabriel was present among our eyes at the Gaza Strip, this dramatic situation, you're there with a smile. This in front of us. This is really striking. So my second question: you hinted before that during the last siege of Gaza City, that even your home was besieged by the Israeli army. You decided to remain there, and so risking indeed. Not knowing, even risking your own lives, so you're that kind of witness. So explain to us the reason behind that decision, which happened before the ceasefire, but also one that is renewed every morning for each one of you, and not just for you, but also for the other missionaries who are with you in this moment in the Catholic compound.
Well, yes, it really seemed to us that it was the response that was the natural response, spiritually speaking, humanly speaking, And so I want to say that, as you mentioned, it's not a challenge. It was never a challenge, a political challenge. It wasn't a political challenge, even though we can't really understand, some people don't really understand my decision. It seemed to me and to us really that the shepherd needs to be with his flock. And so me as a priest, as a parish priest, as a missionary, even other brothers and sisters thought the sisters, the ones dressed in blue, the nuns dressed in blue, even the Mother Teresa's sisters, we all thought that it was the response to be close to the people. We couldn't abandon them, the disabled people, the children, the families, and so many who depended and continue to depend on our presence. And so even we're here for Jesus Christ, to preserve the Eucharistic presence. The altar of this church is an altar of peace, really. And we're convinced we're here for Jesus Christ, for physically, he's physically present in the Eucharist, spiritually present in every faithful person, and even in every person who searches for him, searches for truth. So the presence of the church isn't only a physical presence that can move, a mobile presence. Yes, the Lord continues to move. He's a patron of history, but it seemed with much humility, with much simplicity, that I had to be here. That even though it's true that I have to kind of hold back tears, but and if when I receive calls from priests, sisters, families, fathers, mothers, from a lay person, it's like this, life in this valley of tears. And so I try and do my best. We try and do our best.
Ammazza, quante persone.
There's so many people.
There are many of them, yes. So, we have to hold back our tears in hearing what you've said and what you continue to live. You also wrote a beautiful and moving and suffering book about your experiences in these last couple of years in Gaza Strip. It's called The Ruins and the Light, a diary that's... It's evident that one can't censor the great questions which come forth even in the tragedy of the innocent suffering in so many children who are growing and seeing around themselves only death and deaths of other little ones without a family or who are wounded and marked forever by the war. You speak a lot of the children, of their questions. So what does it mean for you to stay in front of them and to give them in some way hope, having in your heart what you've got written down about the deep tears that accompany them, that accompany your daily life today?
And yes, so the Lord is faithful. The Lord gives us the cross, but he also gives us strength to carry it. So here in Italy, Argentina, everywhere. So the children, habitually, they normally need the certainty of older people, of adults. They're small but not stupid, and so they feel when someone offers them certainty, safety. And they're so spiritual that the Lord told them, if we don't return to being children, we won't enter into the kingdom of heaven. And so children, we try and do stuff for the children of the parish, but not only, even the Muslim children, there are children too. And so in this year, God willing, if we can have 1,000 pupils in the parish school, which is very small. Last year in the war we had 270 pupils here, and then there was the other school, the Latin Patriarchy of the Sagrada Familia, with a lot of pupils, and the other school with 1,500 pupils. And so of those three churches, those Catholic schools, this one only remained. And so we're kind of put at max capacity, because to give answers to questions, we've accepted up to 1,000 pupils, which are pupils from everywhere. So to create this environment of serenity, of peace, I've never seen it in our Catholic community, in our neighbours. No desire of a vendetta, of revenge, and this is a treasure. It's true, it's hard, that because we're not heroes, and so sometimes we fall down our strength. We try to help each other, but listening to the daily homily, Jesus, a daily hour of silence, nearly in silence, because sometimes there's drones and things, but from our part, in silence, asking the Lord for forgiveness, peace for everyone, and even the children. We try and let them do all the activities, spiritual activities, psychotherapeutic activities, and then games, and this helps them to heal the wounds of their families. But to say the truth, every person who's in Gaza is wounded, continues to be wounded in their soul, and many also physically. And so we try to do our best to create goodness in the world. Sometimes there's the crisis of water, and it's true, and this kind of stops us. But we've seen that not every week, but sometimes we do water games too. So we pump water. We kind of use the big generator. Sometimes we don't purify it, so it stinks a bit. We use a bit of soap. All the adults, even the adults, laugh. Everyone laughs. I even play with the nuns. We kind of shower in this way. So a thing it seems something for crazy people, but the sadness, we overwin it with joy, and the joy of the gospel comes from Jesus. The last word isn't the cross. The cross is a necessary word in our lives, even in our lives, but the definitive word is resurrection, and we have to experience this Paschal mystery in this way.
Thank you, Father Gabriel. We've also seen in the last visit that Monsignor Pizzaballa did, the Patriarch. We've seen about the new nursery school and some of the few houses that have been managed to be rebuilt. So you're making a space of beauty within what you described as must be a veil of tears. And so this is also thanks to the solidarity of many people who have remained faithfully who have faithfully given what little they have to help this experience that you describe of resurrection. But also it seems to me that this war has generated a polarization in the international debate, and a polarization that is born from for the feelings of many people, thousands of people, of this feeling of impotence in front of this conflict that we see it certainly has been decisively resolved, and which can unleash often rage and violence. So in some way there's this kind of circuit of revenge and violence. So instead, what does it mean, really, this experience that you described once to me, the experience of impotence? It's not, then you said it's not a passive experience, but it's one that can have fruits. It can be concrete fruits, not just of solidarity and suffering, but in taking part in your passion in some way.
Yes, there's the mystery still of the cross. The Lord gives us crosses to carry, and the crosses are crosses. It's not something that's He's imagined or planned. We all want to plan, even for our crosses that we carry. But sometimes even we've built our own crosses with ignorances, stupidities, sins, but even willing penitences. But the best crosses are the ones that give straight from the hand from the Lord, even from Him or from other people. So our participation in the hurt of Christ is hereditary. And in front of this spiral of violence, of violent words, of violent principles in all the region, I think that still the presence of Christianity, the presence of Christ, has to be different. And so we're convinced that peace is possible and that the right peace is necessary. And so one of the ways that we help everyone in the community, of the Palestine community, of the Israeli community, is to sow seeds of peace. Talk of peace, talk of justice, convince the world that this is enough, that everything's enough, the innocent victims in all parts of the land, it's terrible, and this is in the Holy Land. And this is in the land where God incarnate lived, where love of the Father manifested through Jesus Christ, his incarnate Son. And so for us, it's our turn to, even though we experience impossibility of many things. Jesus on the cross, he couldn't move like he moved in Galilee, in really beautiful locations of Galilee, conserved on the other part, thanks to the friars of the Franciscan friars, monks. He didn't have this possibility there, nailed to the cross. He couldn't do anything. It was the moment of the highest moment of redemption. And so us, nailed here, we offer to the Lord, we ask him. We know that millions and millions of billions of people pray for peace, and the Lord will give it to us when he thinks it's necessary. And at the same time, we see what we can do. The things that we can't do, we don't do. It's very difficult to discern. This is also part of our cross at this moment, because we have to discern what we can do. We have 1,000 pupils, as I said, but there's hundreds of millions of more that don't have a school. They literally don't have a school building since 3 years. There's education points where they do 4 essential lessons from the goodwill of people who organize it, but these aren't schools. The most part of schools are bombed or full of refugees now. People have lost their homes, that their neighborhood has disappeared. And so the great mystery of the cross, I want to say, to remind you what happened in the 17th of July last year, 2025, when we were once again bombed, and 3 people of our community, of Christian community, died, and 12 of us were wounded. And on the same day, full of blood everywhere, the compound is very small. We had prayers, and the prayers, you have to say them. And so we came back from the hospital, some from the cemetery. The sisters distributed toys and sweets to the children. Another one of our crazy ideas, but the children were struck by seeing all these sufferings, and so we were all in the church. No one asked for vendetta, for vengeance, for justice, which is a right thing to do, asking for justice. They were asking for forgiveness, peace for everyone, and so I think this shows who the Catholics, the Christians of the Holy Land are. I saw this in our neighbours too, though. So who the Christians of the Middle East. I'm an example that they're not angels. I'm giving examples, but they give us an example of knowing that we have to bring the gospel in every situation, even in this situation of the valley of death.
Grazie Padre Gabriel.
Thank you, Father Gabriel, and I know that if you can, you'll remain connected with us. So Father Francesco Ielpo, Father Gabriel showed us what it means to this love that doesn't retire, doesn't go back, because it's the very nature of love to stay. You have different responsibilities. As I said, you guide the fraternity that isn't only in the Holy Land but in other countries of the Middle East that are struck by war. So my first question is, what does this mean? This love that doesn't retire in your daily life, immersed in a context of lacerations, of deep wounds, of economic difficulties. We think of your works, your schools in Palestinian territories where families don't have money to pay rent. but also to stay immersed in a context where every part of you struck by political positions.
Buongiorno.
Thank you. Good day to everybody. And a fraternal salute to Father Gabriel and to all the sisters there who live there with you. A big embrace to you all. Thank you, thank you. I'll confess that I feel a certain embarrassment after this testimony of Father Gabriel. Hang on, I want to interrupt here, sorry. Sorry, I know this is outside the protocol, but I don't follow that stuff. The work that the Franciscans do, as many other religious do, is the cross that they carry, the custodians of Jerusalem, these fathers who, what they face is enormous. We aren't heroes, and yet think a lot about the responsibility and the good that is done, and so how to conserve still the Christian presence, to continue that even in this world that they not be taken away. So, Father, no embarrassment. Your cross is invisible, but ours is visible. But maybe it's more seen. But yours isn't any smaller than ours. Sorry, I'm stealing your time. Thank you, Gabriel. What's it mean to love without drawing back? When I received the nomination, my election as custodian of the Holy Land, a friend said to me, "Remember, Francesco, that the first work is on yourself. You're the first work." And so, at the beginning of an meeting like this, I'd started to list out the works that the custody of the Holy Land does, to testimony, to show this love which doesn't draw back. But now I struggle more to list the works that we do, because I realize ever more, and today even more than that, after the words of Gabriel, that above all, there's one work that each of us, which is for each one of us, that is our heart, which continuously we should be constructed, because the presence that is a presence which wants to testify and document another presence, this needs a heart that is able to give itself completely and to stay in front of the cross, or on the cross, of the cross is given to you with the same love that Christ himself had, a love that I can't give myself, but I can receive, and that then only if I experience it on myself, a love that doesn't draw back in my own concrete life, only then is it possible that even the works that I do become expressions, emanations, reverberations of that which happens in me. So first, Gabriel said something important. Looking at them, I need certainty. The position in which we live, everybody looks at us. They look at the custodian, they look at the patriarch, as if we always need to have solutions, but often there are no solutions. And the first question is, how do I personally stay in front of all of this evil? How can I stay in front of the questions which reach me? How can I stay in front of my brothers who are involved in the first lines there in those territories that Alessandra listed? So I realized that the first point is that to kneel down in front of the mystery of a God who makes himself flesh and who doesn't pull back in his love for you. So the second word that was said to me is, remember that the first work is you, And the first great duty is to construct your Christian life and your faith. Otherwise, you'd just be another NGO among all those that there are. The other word that was said to me is after I left, the word was said, Francesco, find yourself a friend. And this love which doesn't pull back passes always through the face of a friend who doesn't draw back, through the face of someone who, until that moment, maybe you didn't know them, you didn't even know they existed, and you arrive in another context with great challenges that often can leave you breathless, because you find yourself in front of an enormity, a list of problems and difficulties, of challenges, of dramas, of mourning, of injustice, of tears. In front of this, you can't stay in front of all this with that unless through the company of a friend. One of the things that most struck me in these last months and which made me realize even more the value of a presence, and a presence that a Franciscan presence, was a few months ago the visit from a little group of priests, Tuscan priests, who had come to do a pilgrimage in the Holy Land, but also to see how the situation was, because they desired to relaunch pilgrimages and come back with their parishioners. And we had this meeting with them. We spoke of how the situation was, and the one who's accompanying them, a Palestinian guide, a Christian Arab, who was going with them, he told me this, that, Father, I was wandering around from parish to parish every Sunday with my parish. My family would go to one parish there, one here, and then we bumped into the parish. We've gone on the outside of Jerusalem, edge of Jerusalem, in Bethany, where last year we'd kind of risked, as the Pope reminded us, we risked with three very young brothers, young friars who were only recently ordained, and gave them the responsibility of this parish. And we said to them, we bumped into that reality, and there, finally, we found that which we really need, a community. Before all the rest, to remain, we need a community, a family, and so we call a culture of fraternity. So I realized that in front of this need, you can't respond on your own. For this need, which is my need, the need of all of us, you need a fraternity which demonstrates, which shows, which witnesses this communion. These three brothers, they straight away started, through their love for each other, their fraternal life, to present themselves to the parishioners together, doing things together, esteeming each other, caring for each other, each one with his own character, his personality. But this became so surprising that people, the faithful who arrived, the Christians arrived there, can't fit in the church anymore, because they come there and they say, here we feel ourselves in a community. And so all of the works that we need, that in some way we need to say a love that doesn't draw back, they must in some way be born out of a lived fraternity. And this is why I believe and I retain that the first task of the custodian of the Holy Land is that of making custody of my vocation, my giving to Christ, and taking care of the vocation of my brothers, my friars, because only if we live deep down our charism, our vocation, do we contribute to that love that doesn't draw back.
Thank you, Father Francesco. You've given us an example of a community that in Jerusalem we know that there's your schools, your works, even in Israel, like they are in the other part across the wall, in the Palestinian territories. I want to look for one moment there, because we know that the situation in many Palestinian realities is always more critical, still more worse. We see the daily news of these extremist fringes of colonies who attack villages. We already know that they've taken some various lands in the zone of Bethlehem where you have schools and communities. And so I want to ask you, in the respects of what you said now about your position in to keep loving what is important and to give a reason for hope, for a realistic hope in the future for your communities in Palestine who are seeing what is happening, especially in these last few months, to not have a physical space for the future in Palestine.
It's truly dramatic. It's really painful to witness the perpetuation of these injustices, of this violence, which really undermine the life of the families, not just the Christians, and not just those in Bethlehem or in the villages where there is a strong Christian presence. I think often of the villages or the camps of the Bedouins, of all those other minorities which don't have a voice, who we don't know anything, that those also live in this continuous precariousness, this continuous perpetuation of injustices, which by now everybody's condemned to, which remain there. So I think you experience this powerlessness which Father Gabriel was talking about, because beyond pointing this out, beyond denouncing them as the Church has always done, thank goodness, but you experience that in front of those who look at you and say, what can we do in front of this? That there's a kind of incapacity and impotence, and yet the Christian presence, even in this test territories, is fundamental. And the hemorrhage, as people call it, as Pope Leo called it, in a meeting he had with all the workers who look after the Middle East, speaking of this Christian hemorrhage in these areas, which is painful and worrying. The first great work is that of having a reason for which it's worth remaining there, because if you don't have that reason, it's difficult that you can communicate it, not just through your works, which are indispensable, like the schools and so on, and what else was said to us, but also in the West Bank, the first thing that is asked to you, it isn't an economical help. The first that all the Christians ask you is, help us to have a work permit for Israel. Help us to have a work permit to let us to be able to go over beyond the wall to work, even a few days a week, but to be able to bring home the bread for our children. Or beyond giving the school the work and the medical help, etc., we need to have a reason for which it's staying there. We need to, above all, to glimpse that there's a possibility of staying there. I was struck a little while ago that a young couple, newly married, who'd been invited to accompany the missionaries in Chile, and they lived in one of the most ill-repute quarters of Santiago, and the secret police were there. Asked them, "Well, you had jobs in Italy. Why are you here? Are you spies? What's your reason?" And that after the curfew, all their neighbours who were looking at them suspiciously, and above all, that they became friends of one who, for a long period, they started to say, My biggest dream is to go away from this hellhole. And after a year that they got to know this person, they said, "Do you still want to leave?" And he said, "No." Why? Because I've seen that you live here, that you've chosen to live here, and I asked myself, what is it that you find beautiful, you guys here? What is it that makes you want to stay here that I don't see? And if you remain, maybe there's the chance that of good, of beauty, even for me. And so I think that this is the point. Beyond all that, everything that you need to do, and that you mustn't pull back from doing, absolutely. But there's a question above all. This challenge, this difficulty, is a question above all for us, for our families, for those closest to us, to say, is there a good here? Is there beauty even in this circumstance? Because if there isn't one, our worlds become just slogans, become just words that need to convince yourself that to keep. Yes, he needs to work here, but really the theme is to help each other to discover the aim of one's life. Your vocation is strictly linked to the vocation of the fact that if you're born there, God has created you, has put you in the world from eternity with a project for you. And if we unlink this mission from the vocational theme, then we could even run the risk of doing a violence to the Christians themselves. I don't know if you can understand, because it's delicate, but really, this is vocational. That what God has thought of for me, the destiny that He's thought of for me, is a good destiny. There is where He put me in those conditions. We need people, men and women, who testify to this, not just that say you must stay here at all costs.
And the experience that you've described also is faced by other Christian communities of the Holy Land, I think especially of those in Lebanon and Syria, with different situations, but situations that are equally problematic, because they're both countries where war is still there. So the themes that we saw in Lebanon in the last few months, in Syria in the last few years. And so from this point of view, what do you visit these communities? You visit these communities frequently, so what have you found as testimony to these things you just said?
I think, thinking of the villages of Oronte near Idlib, where we have 2 Christian villages, where after 14 years, in January I went. I was the first custodian since Pizzaballa to set foot in those villages, because for 12 years they were besieged by the jihadis. And there you see this love which doesn't draw back, which remains, which is a cross it's a cross being there. It's a gratuitous love. Because that there's a faithfulness to remain beside this little community, which has been reduced to a few hundred people, old people or children, because all the others were constrained to leave. That after 14 years, it's reborn, and you see that the value of a presence which can't limit itself to the present moment, but which must have a gaze almost like that of God, where the time aren't our times, that we want things straight away, or that there always be an immediate solution. You see that there, hope never disappeared because the presence of the church never disappeared. And you see that the families come back, and they come back because what was never lost was there was never lacked a shepherd who testified the gift of life, even all the kidnappings, all the destructions of the crosses, imposition of Sharia, and the absolute poverty. Or you see in Lebanon that the friars, even from the south, that we had to evacuate in a parish where there were only few families who'd refused to leave on the yellow line, the Israeli contingent, and they resist there. And these brothers take the helicopter with the troops to go and celebrate Mass and for these families. Or you see that they call you and they say, we've filled up the car with food, we know that it's dangerous, that we can't go there in a certain moment, that the convent, we've left the convent, we've evacuated, but we know that there's need there, but can you authorize us to go? Can you give us your blessing? We know that the good sense would say stay put, but the love for Christ, for that people, pushes us. And so you see that there's really a miracle which continues, and you're a spectator of the great works that God does and continues to bring up in the hearts of men and women who are always disposed to testify that love which doesn't draw back. And this is what then generates that hope, and which can then generate the possibility that there be for someone even the desire to remain and to continue their vocation even in that context.
And then there's another aspect of this remaining here for you monks, that is to be custodians physically of the holy places. And one of the consequences of this long war is the fact that there are no longer any little pilgrims. You mentioned earlier this group of Tuscan priests in a moment where you hoped that they could restart numerically in a larger sum of people, but so far you haven't been able to do this. So in the profound meaning of life, of the communities in the Holy Lands, in the holy places, that in Gethsemane and different places, and you continue this life of community of monks. And so why do you highlight the importance of this presence that seems invisible, kind of, from a certain point of view, without pilgrims, without services, to the faithful who come to pray?
The holy places they need the Christian, a local Christian community. But I'd add that the holy places also need the presence, essential presence of the Christians from the whole world. They wouldn't be the places of our redemption, the places of the incarnation, without an incarnate faith in a people, and the people who lives there, and in the people who come there as pilgrims. The pilgrimage, beyond being an injection, even economically, we think of in Bethlehem, 70% of the population live from religious tourism, and it's 5 years that they have no income of any sort for this reason. But the pilgrimage generates hope, because going back to the talk about vocation, it makes you perceive, to become aware that your aim in the world is not just that of living around the holy places and looking after the Christian presence in those places, but your aim, your vocation, is that of welcoming, of being that open door, that smile for all the pilgrims who arrive there in that land. And that inevitably, not just they need to bump into the physical stones of the Holy Sepulchre, but also in the concrete faces of the resurrection, which is made concrete and incarnate in a local church, local people. And I want to say this thing, that for me it's really important, that I learnt it from a 6-year-old child. One year I was accompanying a group in August, families with little kids, that from about 6 to 14 years, We'd done a year of preparation, 10 years, a long pilgrimage. They went to the Negev desert, and all the preoccupations of this world, the mums and dads, about will the kids get tired, will they get bored, what will they do, and will it be hot? And so we carry on with all our worries about these things. And the theme of this pilgrimage was, Lord, where do you live? The beginning of St. John's Gospel, the question of the first disciples who follow Christ, where do you live? And so with the child, we'd organised this treasure hunt, because you said, you bring a notebook and pencils, and every evening we'll get together, and you need to say in the day, where had you glimpsed Jesus? Why? Because he's playing a game of hide and seek with you, and every day you need to try and figure out where he was present. So the first day we had the desert, super hot, 50 degrees. On the adults were complaining on the bus, and that's the thing that comes easiest to us, is to complain. And we get off the bus and think, okay, there's this huge sun, we go along this enormous canyon, and then invite them to, in silence, with the children, perfectly in silence, and that they go around the corner, and there's a waterfall in the middle of the desert, a little lake. Wow, they say. So we pass the day there, and then there's Holy Mass. There's a little bit of shade in this oasis, and in the evening, in a kibbutz, we go there. We see that the kids have got their notebooks, and Paula, 6-year-old, she's got a picture of the waterfall. Her mum, a couple of words, the doves flying around. I turn the page, and she's written, today I was happy to have sweated, because the drops of my sweat fell on the ground that Jesus had trodden on. What had that child seen that we don't see? That approached the world that, as Father Gabriel said, because the Holy Land is this. There's a strict link between the incarnation and the life of each one of us that really has to do with our lives, even those who live there and those who came to Rimini, because without this link with Christ, even with the earth, with the land, it would remain just land. And so I invite you the invitation to pilgrimage is a double invitation. It puts you on the path to discover and renew in yourself the link with the incarnation of Christ, who had walked on that land, and it does good to that people who discover even more in hope their vocation and their aim, their task in the world.
Thank you, Father Francesco, and I want to conclude with one last question to say goodbye to Father Gabriel. We still see him, he's still here with us. He's already told us what it means, what we can't see here in up north, and I want to ask what to ask to the what we have to ask. We know that this meeting has been opened by the visit of Pope Leo, who said, especially to the young people, the future is a promise, it's not a threat. And so he's already told us what it means for us, but also what does it mean for the young people who listen and live in a context not of war, but with many other threats.
Jesus has won.
Jesus has won. And so Jesus won, and we have to continue because Jesus has won. The world doesn't want to feel like Jesus has won, but he has won. And so young people are called for heroism, especially because Jesus has told us there's more joy in receiving and giving than receiving. You have to swallow your tears, your sufferings, your solitude, and so we have to be more simple in the spiritual life, not many speeches in our consecrated vocation, but in our celebratory vocation or matrimonial vocation, you have to take a decision and go forward in this way. And so this, I think, is the essential thing to live. Difficulties, our Lord never abandons us, and so as a priest, if I don't finish asking for help, I wouldn't be a good thing. And so ask help. And so we help the church, the Latin Patriarchy of Jerusalem, the custodian of the Holy Land, because we know there's some faithful people, thank the Lord, for the leaders of the church here in the Holy Land, because here this really helps to give witness to the love of Christ towards everyone, but also to sustain materially the church, because it's a body that we need to maintain.
Grazie Padre Gabriel, grazie anche a Padre Francesco.
Thank you, Father Gabriel. Thank you, Father Francesco. You can see there's this mission, different crosses that are profoundly united, as you've shown in this dialogue at a distance, even they're so concentrated and based on love, which allows each one to stay in the place where they're called to be. So really, thank you to both, and I'll conclude with recalling to you that each one of us can also sustain the meeting, can contribute to contribute places of beauty, of encounter, and along the entire Fiera you'll find the Dona Ora points with the sound by the red heart, and the meeting is a third entity sector, and those who sustain the meeting can benefit from tax benefits. So please, thank you all. Thank you for your participation. And your moving, touching presence. Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Questo è un luogo che genera dialogo,
Qualcuno che si impegna, che si batte.
che approfondisce la conoscenza e sostiene la fiducia. È un crocevia dove si incontra chi desidera il vero, il bello, il giusto e il bene. È una testimonianza di speranza nel cuore ferito del presente. E tutto questo
Proporre con la propria vita.
esiste anche grazie a te.
In mezzo al rumore serve qualcosa che duri.
El Papa León XIV.
Storie vere. Incontri che cambiano la vita. Persone che costruiscono. Uno sguardo originale su ciò che accade. Tutto questo è Tracce. Ora anche in una nuova versione digitale. Per raccontare sempre più storie di gente che vive. Tracce, la rivista internazionale di Comunione e Liberazione.
Consorzio La Cascina. Ristorazione, global service, costruzioni, servizi alla persona. Promuoviamo l'impresa mutualistica e il benessere della comunità. I numeri di una grande realtà. Oltre 650 milioni di fatturato, più di 16.000 lavoratori. Vivenda. Ristorazione per mense scolastiche, ospedali, aziende e comunità. Global service. La Cascina Costruzioni. Realizziamo come impresa o general contractor infrastrutture e grandi opere edilizie. Medi Hospice. Assistenza, accoglienza, cura. Da sempre al fianco dei più fragili. Consorzio La Cascina. Cuore da cooperativa, testa da impresa.